Men are moved by two levers only, fear and self-interest. Napoleon Bonaparte, they tell you truth is a virtue, a guiding light, something to be cherished and protected at all costs. They tell you that truth will set you free. They're lying. Truth, in its rawest form, is a weapon. It's a tool to be wielded, not worshipped. The world doesn't reward honesty, it punishes it. Comforting lies are the social lubricant that keeps the gears turning, and anyone who disrupts that system is quickly ostracized. The myth of truth's inherent goodness is a fabrication designed to control you, to keep you docile and compliant. It's a way to disarm you, convincing you that vulnerability is strength. Real strength lies in discernment, in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent, in understanding that truth, deployed carelessly, can be more destructive than any lie. The problem with blindly championing truth is that you assume everyone else is playing by the same rules. They aren't. Your honesty becomes a weakness they can exploit. You reveal your hand while they keep theirs hidden. You expose your vulnerabilities while they sharpen their knives. In a world of deception, unwavering truthfulness is a self-inflicted wound. It makes you predictable, easy to manipulate, and ultimately irrelevant. The truly powerful understand that truth is subjective, malleable, a tool to be shaped and used for their own purposes. They craft narratives, control the flow of information, and rewrite history to suit their agenda. To believe that truth alone will prevail is to ignore the brutal realities of power. Consider the political arena. Politicians rarely speak the unvarnished truth. They offer carefully crafted statements designed to appeal to specific demographics, to maintain their power base, to avoid controversy. Honesty is a liability in their world. The same holds true in the corporate world. Companies present carefully curated images to the public, concealing internal struggles, ethical compromises, and profit-driven decisions that often contradict their stated values. Transparency is a myth, a marketing tactic designed to build trust while masking the underlying reality. Even in personal relationships, absolute honesty can be disastrous. Sometimes, a white lie is necessary to protect someone's feelings, to avoid unnecessary conflict, to maintain the fragile peace that binds people together. The world is not a court of law where truth is the ultimate arbiter. It's a battlefield where deception and manipulation are the weapons of choice. They preach about the sanctity of truth because they want you to be predictable, manageable, and easily controlled. They want you to believe that being honest is the highest virtue, while they operate in the shadows, manipulating events and shaping perceptions to their advantage. They tell you to be transparent, while they maintain a carefully constructed facade. They tell you that truth will set you free, while they build the prison around you with their lies. The ability to discern the truth, to separate fact from fiction, is a far greater asset than blindly adhering to a supposed moral code. It allows you to see the world as it truly is, to understand the motivations of others, and to protect yourself from manipulation. The idea that truth needs allies is a comforting delusion. It implies that truth is inherently weak, requiring external support to survive. But real truth, the kind that challenges the status quo, the kind that exposes uncomfortable realities, is inherently powerful. It doesn't need allies, it needs warriors. It needs individuals willing to stand alone, to face the consequences of speaking out, to defy the pressure to conform. Those who genuinely seek truth are often met with resistance, ridicule, and even persecution. They are the ones who dare to question the established narratives, to challenge the prevailing orthodoxies, to expose the lies that prop up the system. They don't seek validation or approval, they seek understanding. They are driven by a relentless pursuit of knowledge, a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, and a refusal to be silenced. Think about whistleblowers who risk their careers, their reputations, and even their lives to expose corruption and wrongdoing. They don't seek allies, they seek justice. They understand that the truth, when revealed, can be a powerful force for change. But they also understand that speaking truth to power comes at a price. They are often ostracized, demonized, and subjected to intense scrutiny. Yet they persevere, driven by a conviction that the truth is worth fighting for. These are not people who blindly believe in the inherent goodness of truth. They are realists who understand the consequences of their actions. They are willing to sacrifice everything for the sake of exposing the truth, even if it means standing alone. The modern world is awash in information, but genuine truth is increasingly scarce. We are bombarded with propaganda, misinformation, and carefully crafted narratives designed to manipulate our perceptions and control our behavior. The ability to discern truth from falsehood is becoming increasingly difficult, requiring critical thinking skills, a healthy dose of skepticism, and a willingness to challenge conventional wisdom. Blindly accepting what you are told is a recipe for disaster. You must learn to question everything, to analyze information critically, and to form your own conclusions based on evidence and reason. This is not about embracing cynicism. It's about developing a healthy skepticism that allows you to navigate the complexities of the modern world with greater clarity and understanding. The truth doesn't need your blind faith. It needs your critical examination, your relentless questioning, and your unwavering commitment to seeking understanding. Stop believing the lie that truth is inherently virtuous and start recognizing it for what it is, a powerful weapon that can be used for good or evil, depending on who wields it and how. Learn to wield it wisely. The psychology of truth-seeking is complex, often driven by a deep-seated need for order in a chaotic world. Our brains are wired to find patterns and explanations, to create narratives that make sense of the experiences we encounter. When confronted with uncertainty or ambiguity, we naturally seek out information that can help us resolve the dissonance and restore a sense of cognitive equilibrium. This inherent drive for understanding can be a powerful motivator for truth-seeking, pushing us to explore new ideas, challenge existing assumptions, and delve into the unknown. However, this same drive can also lead us astray. We are susceptible to confirmation bias, the tendency to favor information that confirms our existing beliefs while ignoring or downplaying evidence that contradicts them. This bias can distort our perception of reality, leading us to cling to comfortable narratives even when they are demonstrably false. Overcoming confirmation bias requires a conscious effort to seek out diverse perspectives, to challenge our own assumptions, and to be willing to admit when we are wrong. It demands intellectual humility, the recognition that our knowledge is limited and that there is always more to learn. The pursuit of truth also demands emotional resilience. Uncovering uncomfortable truths can be a painful and unsettling experience, forcing us to confront our own biases, prejudices, and limitations. It can challenge our sense of identity, shatter our illusions, and force us to reevaluate our understanding of the world. Many people avoid the truth precisely because they fear these consequences. They prefer the comfort of ignorance to the discomfort of knowledge, clinging to familiar narratives even when they are demonstrably false. Overcoming this fear requires a willingness to embrace discomfort, to accept that growth often comes from challenging our own beliefs and confronting our own limitations. It demands courage, the willingness to face unpleasant realities and to act in accordance with our principles, even when it is difficult or unpopular. Furthermore, the psychology of group dynamics plays a significant role in the suppression or amplification of truth. Human beings are social creatures, deeply influenced by the opinions and behaviors of those around them. We have a natural tendency to conform to the norms of our social groups, to avoid behaviors that might lead to social ostracism or rejection. This conformity can be a powerful force for social cohesion, but it can also stifle dissent and suppress the truth. When a dominant narrative is established within a group, it can be difficult for individuals to challenge that narrative, even if they believe it to be false. The fear of social isolation can be a powerful deterrent, preventing people from speaking out against the prevailing consensus. Overcoming this pressure requires a strong sense of individual conviction, the willingness to stand alone even when it is unpopular, and the ability to articulate dissenting views in a persuasive and compelling manner. It requires leadership, the ability to inspire others to question assumptions, challenge conventional wisdom, and embrace the pursuit of truth, even when it is difficult or dangerous. This is not about rebellion for its own sake. It is about recognizing that true progress often requires challenging the status quo and pushing the boundaries of accepted knowledge. Consider the implications of widespread ignorance or willful blindness. A society that refuses to confront uncomfortable truth is a society that is vulnerable to manipulation and exploitation. It is a society that is prone to making poor decisions, repeating past mistakes, and ultimately failing to adapt to changing circumstances. The pursuit of truth is not merely an intellectual exercise. It is a matter of survival. It is essential for individual well-being, societal progress, and the preservation of freedom. A populace that is incapable of discerning truth from falsehood is a populace that is easily controlled. Therefore, the cultivation of critical thinking skills, the promotion of intellectual honesty, and the protection of free speech are essential for maintaining a healthy and vibrant society. These are not merely abstract ideals. They are practical necessities for ensuring that we can make informed decisions, hold our leaders accountable, and adapt to the challenges of a rapidly changing world. The alternative is a descent into ignorance, tyranny, and ultimately, self-destruction. Imagine a corporate environment, a cutthroat sales team driven by relentless targets. The truth in this arena becomes a weapon, a tool to be wielded strategically. A new product launches riddled with flaws. Management, desperate for success, demands positive spin. The truth that the product is half-baked and likely to fail is suppressed. Salespeople, incentivized by hefty commissions, face a moral dilemma. Do they protect their income and perpetuate the lie? Or do they risk their jobs by exposing the product's deficiencies? The ambitious ones, the ones who prioritize short-term gain over long-term integrity, choose deception. They highlight the product's few superficial advantages, downplay its critical shortcomings, and aggressively push it onto unsuspecting customers. Their mantra becomes, "Fake it till you make it," even if making it means leaving a trail of dissatisfied, angry clients in their wake. This is not just about individual greed. It's about a system that rewards dishonesty and punishes those who dare to speak truth to power. The corporate culture, driven by relentless competition and a fear of failure, actively discourages transparency and critical thinking. Those who raise concerns, who point out the product's flaws and the potential for customer backlash, are quickly marginalized. They are labeled as negative, uncooperative, or not team players. Their voices are silenced, their opinions dismissed. The pressure to conform is immense. The fear of losing their jobs, their reputations, and their livelihoods forces them to comply. This is how a culture of dishonesty becomes ingrained, how a company loses touch with reality, and how it ultimately sets itself up for disaster. The short-term gains achieved through deception are ultimately unsustainable. Eventually, the truth emerges. Customers discover the product's flaws, complaints flood in, sales plummet. The company's reputation is tarnished. Lawsuits may follow. The initial success built on a foundation of lies crumbles. Those who profited from the deception, the ambitious salespeople and the short-sighted managers, often move on to other ventures, leaving behind a trail of wreckage. They have learned that dishonesty can be a lucrative strategy, at least in the short term, and they are likely to repeat the pattern in their next endeavor. But what about those who chose to speak the truth? They may have suffered professionally. They may have lost their jobs, their promotions, or their reputations, but they retain their integrity. They have the satisfaction of knowing that they acted ethically, even when it was difficult. They have learned a valuable lesson about the importance of honesty and the dangers of succumbing to pressure. And they are likely to find success in the long run, building trust and respect through their commitment to truth. The corporate scenario illustrates a fundamental principle. Truth needs no allies because it is inherently self-sufficient. It may be suppressed, distorted, or ignored for a time, but it will eventually prevail. Lies, on the other hand, require constant support, justification, and reinforcement. They are inherently fragile and unsustainable. They are built on a foundation of deceit and manipulation, which will eventually crumble under the weight of reality. This dynamic plays out across all scales, from individual interactions to international relations. A nation that bases its foreign policy on lies and propaganda, for example, may achieve short-term tactical advantages, but it will ultimately erode its credibility and isolate itself from the international community. A leader who deceives his people may maintain power for a time, but he will eventually lose their trust and face a reckoning. Truth, like a virus, seeks to spread rapidly and infect widely. It has an inexorable momentum all its own. It doesn't need the backing of public relations or political machines or powerful friends. The very nature of truth is that it can stand alone. This does not mean that the path of truth is easy. It often requires courage, resilience, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. It may involve facing opposition, criticism, and even persecution. But the rewards of pursuing truth are immense. They include intellectual clarity, moral integrity, and the satisfaction of knowing that you are living in accordance with reality. In the long run, truth is always the most effective strategy. It builds trust, fosters cooperation, and leads to sustainable success. Lies, on the other hand, are a recipe for disaster. They erode trust, create conflict, and ultimately lead to failure. The lesson is clear. Prioritize truth, even when it is difficult or unpopular. Cultivate critical thinking skills, challenge assumptions, and demand evidence. Resist the temptation to deceive others, even when it seems advantageous. And remember that truth needs no allies because it is its own best defense. A person who prioritizes truth above all else is free to act unencumbered by the burdens of maintaining deception. The trap that snares the weak is the belief that truth requires their protection or embellishment. They imagine that honesty, in its raw form, is insufficient, needing a carefully constructed narrative to make it palatable or acceptable. This stems from a deep-seated insecurity, a lack of faith in the power of reality itself. They believe that people are too fragile to handle the unvarnished truth, that it must be diluted or sugar-coated to avoid causing offense or discomfort. This paternalistic approach, while seemingly compassionate, is ultimately condescending and self-serving. It positions the speaker as the arbiter of truth, deciding what others are capable of understanding and what they must be shielded from. This creates a dependency, a reliance on the speaker to provide a filtered version of reality, preventing the listener from developing their own critical thinking skills and forming their own independent judgments. The weak are also convinced that truth is a fragile thing, easily shattered by opposing viewpoints or uncomfortable facts. They see the world as a battlefield of ideas, where truth must be constantly defended against the forces of misinformation and deceit. This leads them to adopt a defensive posture, carefully crafting their arguments and selecting their evidence to support their preconceived notions. They become more concerned with winning the argument than with discovering the truth, sacrificing intellectual honesty in the pursuit of validation. In doing so, they ironically undermine their own credibility and weaken the very truth they are trying to protect. The strong, on the other hand, understand that truth is resilient. It can withstand scrutiny, challenge, and even outright denial. Like a diamond, it becomes harder and more brilliant with each facet examined. They do not shy away from uncomfortable facts or opposing viewpoints, but rather embrace them as opportunities for deeper understanding. They are confident that the truth will ultimately prevail, even if it takes time and effort to uncover it. They also recognize that truth is not a monolithic entity, but rather a complex and multifaceted phenomenon. There are often multiple perspectives on a given issue, each with its own validity and limitations. The strong are able to hold these competing perspectives in their minds simultaneously, recognizing the nuances and complexities of reality. They are not afraid to admit when they are wrong or to change their minds in light of new evidence. They understand that intellectual humility is a sign of strength, not weakness. The weak are easily swayed by emotions and personal biases. They are more likely to believe what they want to believe, rather than what the evidence suggests. They are susceptible to propaganda, manipulation, and groupthink. They lack the critical thinking skills necessary to evaluate information objectively and to form their own independent judgments. This makes them vulnerable to being exploited by those who seek to control them. They prioritize popularity over principle, seeking to gain the approval of others by conforming to their expectations. They are afraid to speak out against the prevailing consensus, even when they know it is wrong. This cowardice perpetuates the cycle of deception and prevents progress from being made. The path of the weak is paved with good intentions, but ultimately leads to stagnation and failure. Their fear of confrontation and their need for validation prevent them from embracing the truth and achieving their full potential. They are content to remain in their comfort zones, clinging to their illusions and denying the reality of the world around them. In contrast, the strong are willing to face discomfort, challenge, and even ridicule in the pursuit of truth. They understand that growth and progress require a willingness to step outside of one's comfort zone and to confront uncomfortable realities. They are not afraid to be different or to stand alone in their convictions. They are driven by a deep-seated desire to understand the world and to live in accordance with its principles. This pursuit of truth is not merely an intellectual exercise, but a moral imperative. The strong believe that honesty is the foundation of all meaningful relationships, both personal and professional. They are committed to being truthful in their dealings with others, even when it is difficult or unpopular. They understand that trust is a precious commodity, easily lost and hard to regain. They prioritize integrity above all else, knowing that it is the key to long-term success and fulfillment. The weak, on the other hand, are willing to compromise their integrity for short-term gains. They are willing to lie, cheat, and manipulate others to get what they want. They believe that the ends justify the means, and that honesty is a luxury they cannot afford. This short-sighted approach ultimately backfires, eroding their credibility and damaging their relationships. They may achieve temporary success, but their lack of integrity will eventually catch up with them. The strong understand that truth is not just a matter of individual integrity, but also a matter of collective responsibility. They believe that it is their duty to speak out against injustice and to expose corruption, even when it is risky or unpopular. They recognize that silence is complicity and that they cannot stand idly by while others are being harmed. They are willing to use their voices and their platforms to advocate for truth and justice, even when it means facing opposition or criticism. The weak, on the other hand, are more concerned with protecting their own interests and avoiding conflict. They are content to remain silent and to let others fight the battles for them. They lack the courage to stand up for what is right and to challenge the status quo. This apathy allows injustice and corruption to flourish, perpetuating the cycle of oppression. The strong understand that truth is not a static concept, but rather a dynamic and evolving process. They are constantly seeking new information, challenging their assumptions, and refining their understanding of the world. They are not afraid to change their minds in light of new evidence, and they are always open to learning from others. This intellectual curiosity and humility allows them to grow and to adapt to changing circumstances. The weak, on the other hand, are resistant to change and stuck in their ways. They cling to their outdated beliefs and are unwilling to consider alternative perspectives. They are afraid of being wrong, and they are unwilling to admit their mistakes. This rigidity prevents them from learning and growing, leaving them ill-equipped to deal with the challenges of a constantly changing world. The ultimate trap for the weak is their inability to recognize the inherent power of truth. They believe that it needs their help, their protection, their manipulation. In reality, truth is a force of nature, capable of toppling empires and transforming societies. It needs only to be revealed, to be spoken, to be lived. The strong understand this and they embrace the truth, not as a weapon or a tool, but as a way of life. It is a guiding principle, a compass that points them towards integrity, authenticity, and purpose. They recognize that living in accordance with truth requires constant self-reflection and a willingness to confront their own flaws and biases. This is not an easy path, but it is the only path that leads to genuine freedom and fulfillment. The weak, on the other hand, are trapped in a web of lies and self-deception. They may believe that they are protecting themselves, but in reality, they are only isolating themselves from the very thing that could set them free. They are afraid of the consequences of telling the truth, but they fail to realize that the consequences of living a lie are far greater. The truth needs no allies because it is self-evident. It is the underlying reality that exists independently of human opinion or belief. Attempts to manipulate or control the truth only serve to distort it and diminish its power. The strong understand this, and they avoid the temptation to play political games with the truth. They speak it plainly and honestly, regardless of the consequences. They know that in the long run, truth will always prevail. The weak, however, are constantly trying to bend the truth to their own will. They use propaganda, spin, and misinformation to advance their agendas. They believe that they can control the narrative and shape public opinion, but their efforts are ultimately futile. The truth has a way of seeping through the cracks and exposing their lies. It is a relentless force that cannot be contained. To believe that truth needs allies is to fundamentally misunderstand its nature. It is to assume that it is fragile and vulnerable, that it needs protection and support. But the truth is not a delicate flower that needs to be nurtured. It is a powerful oak that can withstand the fiercest storms. It needs only to be planted in fertile ground and allowed to grow. That fertile ground is the human heart, the place where integrity and authenticity reside. When we cultivate these qualities within ourselves, we become conduits for truth. We allow it to flow through us and to illuminate the world around us. This is the ultimate act of courage, to stand naked before the world and to speak the truth as we see it. It is not always easy, but it is always worth it. For in the end, truth is the only thing that truly matters. It is the foundation upon which all lasting relationships, institutions, and societies are built. Without truth, everything crumbles. Therefore, abandon the delusion that truth requires your defense. It needs no soldiers, no